I like the small town atmosphere of Winchester, that you know everybody, and you learn a lot of what's going on in the town.
So we do it in my kitchen, and it is very complicated because we have 2 cameras. I'm on camera while doing everything else, and we have lights, we have microphone, we have everything going on.
My parents took me to New York and we saw Barbra Streisand in Funny Girl on Broadway, and I became stage struck, and I just thought it was the most thrilling thing I'd ever seen in my life.
I've learned a lot here in WinCam, and I've done things that I never thought I would be doing, and just enjoying meeting all the different people.
I just am lucky enough to have really smart, interesting friends who were used to public speaking enough that it didn't seem too terrifying to them.
Having this form of media being like my artistic expression is really, really helpful to me, because I think it's good for everyone to have some artistic output in their life.
Hi, and thanks for tuning in for this first edition of Meet the Members. Each month we hope to showcase some of Winchester's finest, those people who volunteer their time at WinCam to produce many of the local programs that you see on the local channels. I'm Judy Kellerman, and I started working here at Winchester about 3 months ago, and I've worked in many of the local stations in the Boston area and at GBH Television, and I'm very excited to be here in Winchester. So WinCam is Winchester's local television station, and we train all of our members on every aspect of television production. Our staff produces a lot of local events and civic meetings, and we serve everyone in the community, from individuals to nonprofit organizations to all the schools and businesses. So we thought it might be fun to introduce you today to some of our current members. So I'd like to start with, across the table from me, Jill Pearson. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you.
Jill is a lawyer who was Assistant DA of Middlesex County for 4 years. She also worked as the Associate Director of Cooperative Legal Education at Northeastern University School of Law, and she was the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Commission of Judicial Conduct for 24 years. She's been retired since August 2012. Next to Jill is Dan Holohan, and Dan is a junior at Winchester High School. He's vice president of his class. He's a member of the Winchester Cultural Council, and he's a peer leader at the Winchester Youth Center. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
And Linda Doucette, next to me, has worked in the insurance industry for the past 19 years. She's a member of the Winchester Rotary Club. She's currently serving on their board. She's also an advisor of the Interact Club, the Rotary-sponsored high school group, a member of the Town Day Committee, and she's volunteered for the Boston Marathon for the past 15 years. Welcome, Linda.
Hi.
Well, one of the things we already know about these people is the amount of community involvement and volunteerism that they represent. So I'd like to start off with asking everyone a little bit about their backgrounds, including your creative sides. So Jill, can you tell us how long you've lived in Winchester?
Since 1995.
Okay. And give us a little bit about your background, your educational background.
I grew up in Newton and went to Newton High School before it was Newton North. I went to Yale, and I went to Harvard Law School.
Excellent. And I understand that you had some creative interests early on as a child. Can you give us a little example of some of the things you were involved in?
I wanted to be an actress when I was a kid, and I
Wow.
took drama classes from the time I was about maybe 10 through high school. And then that was the end of it.
What else were you interested in when you were younger?
Boys. No. Acting was...
Acting was it. Was there something that happened in New York that got you kind of
Oh, well, my
sparked?
parents took me to New York and we saw Barbra Streisand in Funny Girl on Broadway, and I became stage struck, and I just thought it was the most thrilling thing I'd ever seen in my life.
That's amazing. Thank you. Dan, where were you born?
I was born in Sweden, and then I moved here when I was about 1.5 years old.
Do you have any memories of Sweden?
Not from that young of an age, but we've been back a couple times, and I just love it over there and seeing my family, and I just love the environment.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. I know that you're a junior in high school, but tell us if you have any major interests at the moment or plans for college.
Well, I really do like photography and film and just the whole concept. And also, I really enjoy music. I play the cello, and I've been doing that since 3rd grade. So that's definitely an interest of mine. I think it's just a really cool thing to learn how to play an instrument. And then as for college, I haven't thought too specifically about what I want to do or where I want to go, but one, I would like to study abroad, maybe in Sweden, because I just think it's a really cool place.
That would be fascinating. At least do some of
Yeah.
your studies over there, possibly. That's great. Linda, how long have you lived in Winchester?
I moved here in 1983. I'm originally from upstate New York, and I was 23 years old when I decided to come out here and make a go at it all by myself.
Really?
And
Oh,
my
interesting.
parents said, "Oh, she'll be back," and here I am.
But
still
something
here.
kept you here.
Yeah.
And I know you have some creative interests. What are the kinds of things that you're interested in?
I like to work crochet and knit and do a lot of beadwork and photography. I got interested in photography and
That's great. So you both have an interest in photography, it seems. That's great. I do too, as well. So one of the things I'm seeing here is that all of you, like many people, have creative interests. There's lots of things we do on the side or have had interest in it as we've gone through our lives. And what we'll try to show a little bit later is how these folks have transferred or transposed a lot of those interests into the work that they do in television here at WinCam. So the next thing I would like to talk about is your current involvements with the Winchester community. Let's start with Dan. I understand that you work a lot with the school fundraisers and events. Can you give us an example maybe of one of the fundraisers you've worked on and what your role was?
Yeah, one that I did actually quite recently was I played at a kind of, I don't know what you would call it. It was a fundraiser, but I played the cello at it. It was the Mission of Deeds, so our entire orchestra played at that. And that was kind of cool because it combined like my music interests with my volunteering interests. So we played at St. Mary's Church and we just did I think it was like 45 minutes and it was nice and we had a really nice amount of people show up to that.
That's great. And I understand you're also a peer leader at the Winchester Youth Center. Tell me what that entails.
So there's kind of two parts to that. There's the after-school part where we have a drop-in center, which is part of the middle school. So whenever I can, I usually go over there and just try to get involved with the middle schoolers, whether it be like run activities or sports or whatever. And then the second part of it would be organizing outside events, so more kind of town-focused, I guess you could say. But then we also do activities and fundraisers and volunteering, just the peer leaders, and we have a group of about 30 people. So like one big thing we do is we go down to West Virginia, part of Habitat for Humanity, and we kind of help out down there. And that's like our big project for the year.
That's amazing. That's great. Good work. Linda, tell me a little bit about your work with the Town Day Committee.
Well, my husband and I are both on the Town Day Committee. We got interested in it probably about 10 years ago. We've been on it since. And it's just an amazing group of people that come together and make something. It's like throwing the biggest party in the town. And, you know, each one of us has our own little jobs. And then the day of the day that the event happens, it's amazing. It's just, you know.
That's great. I'm looking forward to
great,
it. Next
yeah.
year will be my first Town Day here. So, also you work with the Interact Club.
Yep.
Tell me what that club is all about.
I'm in the Winchester Rotary Club, and we sponsor a youth group that there's about 35 students right this year, and we've probably been active for about 5 years, and I'm one of the advisors.
Yeah.
So and we just, you know, they do volunteer work in the town, and we participated in the polio plunge last year, and that is in February. I think it's February 9th, and they run into the ocean and
Oh my gosh.
run back out.
All right. So you have to bring a video camera. Definitely. I want to see that. And Jill, now that you're retired, I understand you've devoted a lot of time to volunteering at WinCam as one of our newest producers. So could you tell us a little bit about the premise for your program and how you juggle being both the producer and the host of the show?
Yes. For years while I was still working, I was thinking about, wouldn't it be nice to have a little interview show where I could just interview one interesting person for half an hour, and we could just talk at a very relaxed pace, and I wouldn't interrupt the person, and we could just go wherever we wanted to go. And that seemed more appealing than the stressful job that I had. And so I finally retired this past August, and I had a friend who lives in another town who happened to tell me last spring that she was taking TV production classes in Malden. And I said, I didn't know such a thing was possible. And so I, as soon as I could, came down to WinCam and said, teach me everything, I want to know. And so I got great instruction, individual instruction, from the executive director here, who taught me how to use the camera and do lighting and use the switcher and do the soundboard also.
That's great.
And then you taught me how to use the Compix computer to make graphics, and you're teaching me editing now. And I just find it all so interesting.
That's amazing. That's great. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, WinCam provides training for all of our membership in all aspects of video production. So I'd like to just address each person and ask about their individual training. Jill's already told us a little bit about her training, so let's go back over to Linda. And Linda, I understand the first classes you took here were with the Rotary Club. How was that class actually set up, and what did you folks actually learn?
Yes, it was about a 5-week course, I believe, and Rotary became a member of WinCam, and they told us that we could send 5 people to go to the class, and I was one of them, and I was really excited, and they taught us all the aspects. Each week was a different part of the studio. I had never been into a TV studio, so I didn't know what to expect, but there was directing and the camera work, and then we took turns interviewing each other. But it was I really enjoyed it and stayed on. And
That's great.
It's been great.
Dan, you told me that you started learning TV production when you were in middle school. So give us a little idea what that experience was like, how big the group was, and what you guys actually learned and what you did.
That was a really fun group. It was very energetic. So it was kind of in my earlier years of middle school, and so WinCam offered a youth class, so we came over here and we would sit and listen to whoever was teaching the class, and I think it depended on the week, but usually there were like 15 kids, so it was a pretty big group. And some people stopped coming and other people got more involved, and I really was just fascinated with everything. And it took me a while before I got into some of the more details of production. I was just more starting off on camera, and just that was about it. But then as time kept going, I became more and more interested, and so now I feel more comfortable with everything.
Absolutely, that's great. I think it's interesting when you start learning technical things when you're young. Kids pick up technical things these days very, very quickly, and it's something that stays with you, and it's great that you've continued with it. So we've seen now that everyone at the table, at least, has arrived here at WinCam from kind of a different route, so to speak. I'd like to talk a little bit more about everyone's current projects and productions so we can get an idea of what those are all about. Jill, tell us a little bit about your first show in the sense of, how did you find your first guests? How did you find your crew?
My first 3 guests are all friends of mine. They're 3 of my closest friends. And that's how I found them. I said, please, you've got to help me.
That's great.
And I just am lucky enough to have really smart, interesting friends who were used to public speaking enough that it didn't seem too terrifying to them. I mean, one friend said no, but the three that I started with are all professors, so they're used to standing up in front of people and speaking.
Yeah, great. And how about finding crew? What's that
You
process
found my
been?
crew for me.
Well, I found some.
You
but-
well, some of them.
Yeah.
You got me started off. You sent out an email to your members,
Mm-hmm.
and you found me Dan, who is fabulous, and Lydia Mullen, who's working the camera on this show right now, who is also fantastic. Another Winchester High student,
Mm-hmm.
who are they both know how to do everything, and they've been wonderful. And you found me my director, Tim Bradley, who has a lot of experience. And then I asked an old friend of mine that I went to high school with, because she works part-time, and I said, would you be interested in doing this? And I just remember that she was on the stage crew when I was in the senior play in high school. And
There you go.
I thought it might appeal to her.
Right.
And she likes it, she really likes it.
That's great.
And then the boyfriend of a friend of mine was interested, and they both learned from scratch, absolutely from
Yeah.
scratch,
Yeah.
and they both have done very well. So that's my crew.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So Dan, I understand you've been working on a production for a while now called Teen Eats. Would you explain the premise of the show to us and what it's about?
Sure. So I can't even remember how long ago it was. It must have been like 2 years ago. My very close friend Claudia and I we've always like pretended to have a cooking show. You know, we would cook together, and we always thought it would be cool to have it filmed and then, you know, make something of it. So after I became comfortable enough with everything at WinCam, whether it be like editing or all the equipment and stuff, I decided it would be cool if we had a show. So what it is it's a teen cooking show, so it's just us and we host it, and we kind of try to explain not complicated cooking, but it's not just like boiling pasta, it's like a meal, but that, you know, teenagers can make for themselves.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that premise. Do you do it in one of your kitchens?
Yeah, so we do it
Okay.
in my kitchen, and it is very complicated because we have 2 cameras. I'm on camera while doing everything else, and we have lights, we have microphone, we have everything going on, and it's very cramped, but it's fun. And
But it
then,
works.
Yeah, and then it's kind of cool to edit it myself. I have Claudia helping me, and it's a hobby, you know, and it's fun, and it's cool to make something.
That's great. That's very ambitious, and that's great. Just to let everybody know, Dan's show can be seen on the Educational Channel on Thursdays at 4 o'clock, and Jill's show, which is called the Jill Pearson Profiles, is shown on Monday nights at 8 o'clock on the Public Channel. So Linda, tell me a little bit about the initial program you did with the Rotary Club, and what was that about? What was your role on that first show?
Well, initially we did a talk show
Yeah.
similar to this, and that was probably about 4 years ago. And it was Rotarians explaining why they're in the group, and it was fun. And I actually directed that. I didn't do
Excellent.
any camera work for that one. But then I got interested in doing camera work, and I just love doing the shoots, and
Yeah.
especially live shoots. I love live shoots.
Yeah.
But anyway, I've done a couple Rotary meetings, and I also did. We rededicated Davidson Park, which is on Cross Street, and I shot a film about that. So that was
Interesting.
nice. And last year, it wasn't through Rotary, but it was another. I did a Fenway Park with Paula Tongarelli. She is the executive director of the Griffin Museum,
Oh, yes.
and she's also Rotarian. So through Rotary, I've gotten a lot of.
So your
Contacts.
community involvement has given you
Yeah.
the opportunity again
better.
to something that's going on in the community. You
Yeah.
know about it, and you can gather people together, obviously, and you know, get things covered, which is really a lot of what public access TV is about, as far as I'm concerned. Presenting the community, what goes on in the community, for everyone to watch and see, because not everyone can go to every event, and there is a lot going on in this town, as I'm finding out, which is great. Let's go back to the beginning for a minute and see how some of the creative skills that people mentioned early on that they had or have, and how they are now applying those to the current work that they do here at WinCam. Dan, I know that you work also as a director on some shows here. You're an editor, you do productions, you do graphic design for Jill's show. So how do you feel that your interests in photography and music, as you mentioned, now have come around and become part of your video work?
Well, I think that photography is like maybe the most apparent way that it comes through, because
Yeah.
I love seeing a really complicated or really simple shot that just looks really nice.
Yeah.
But music, which I hadn't really thought about, but it's a really good question, I see it when I'm editing. I like to see everything come together like very rhythmically, and just making sure everything flows. And it's kind of like a piece that we play in the orchestra. You don't want one thing to be off. You want everything to kind of, play together, and you want the music to come in with the video and the titles to come in with the video and the music. And it's kind of just, it's fun to kind of just move stuff around and just make it your own.
That's
which I
amazing
really like.
how that, things that you learned early on as a musician can come through in the world of visual media. That's wonderful. Jill, you had an early interest in drama and acting and writing. And how do you see those talents coming through now in your television production?
Well, I had to learn to enunciate. I had to learn to project, although I don't have to do that here because I have a microphone right there. And I had to memorize lines, things like that. I had to think about my posture when people were looking at me, and never to turn my back to the camera. I suppose those are, you never
Yeah.
turn your back to the audience unless there's some reason to do it.
Yeah.
So, and then later on when I was an adult, I got an interest in writing.
Yeah.
And now I do a little bit of writing for my own show because I have
Yeah.
to write my intro.
Yeah.
And I have to write what I'm going to say when I'm closing the show.
Right.
So,
Good. And Linda, you mentioned an interest in craft work and photography, and the fact that you love camera work now, so you're very focused on kind of the visual aspects of the medium. Do you see your work in doing crafts and photography kind of, integrating into your work
Yeah.
as a camera person?
I guess I just like to keep busy, and maybe I know I've learned a lot here in WinCam, and I've done things that I never thought I would be doing, and just enjoying meeting all the different people. And I've learned skills on the camera that I think now that I'm comfortable with doing a show, or whether it be a live shoot or a town meeting, and know how to use the camera.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So, in closing, I'd like to ask everybody how your involvement with WinCam has either changed you or your involvement with the community. Dan, let's start with you.
I tend to look at myself as not being a very creative person artistically, like drawing or painting or sculpture. So I think, having this form of media being like my artistic expression is really, really helpful to me, because I think it's good for everyone to have some artistic output in their life. And then, being involved with the community, I think it's cool when people go, oh, you're a part of WinCam, and they go, some people think that it's just some mystical place that they can't come to because they don't know how to work a camera, but they're like, oh, that would be awesome if we could film this or whatever.
Right.
So just connecting the community even more, which I think is what is awesome about what WinCam represents.
That's terrific, thank you. Linda, how do you feel like your involvement with WinCam has either changed you, you mentioned the skills development and all that, and your involvement with the community?
I think Winchester's a great town. I grew up in a bigger city. I like the small town atmosphere of Winchester, that everybody and
Yeah.
everybody, and you learn a lot of what's going on in the town, and WinCam gave me that opportunity to know what was happening and be able to show other people what was going on. And I've gone to a couple functions and said, oh, well, this should have been on filmed.
Next time,
But
right.
I think it's just a great town, and it's helped me get to know the community better.
Yeah, it's great that we have this
Yeah.
opportunity. And Jill, how do you feel that your involvement here has helped change you and your involvement with the community?
Well, when I was working, I was so busy, I really didn't have time to be involved with the community at all, which was something that I felt bad about. But now, through WinCam, I know what's going on in my town. And I even ran the camera for a meeting where they were discussing what they were going to do about the new high school. And that was so interesting. And now I feel like I'm part of the community. And I meet nice people, interesting people, and not only that, but I get to see my other friends more often because my busy friends, I can get them to be guests on my show. And I may not have, I mean, you would never say to your friend, well, tell me about your research and how, you would never ask very pointed questions about their profession. But now I can do that when I'm pre-interviewing them, and I find out they do such interesting things, and I get to see them and be sort of really excited about their work. And I get to see my friend Barbara, who's my crew person, and much more often than I was seeing her otherwise. So, I mean, to me, it's just been the most fun I've had in years.
That's great. That's great. And I have found out equally interesting things about all of you, whom I've all met over the last 3 months and know little bits about. And so this has been great for me, too, to learn about you. Thank you all for being on our first show. Thank you all for watching the first installment of Meet the Members. We'll be back at some point in future months with more of our members. And if you're interested in taking courses here at WinCam, or you need any other information about our services and what we do in the community, please give us a call, go to our webpage, or check us out on Facebook and Twitter. And again, take care, and thanks for watching.